and Bilal, you know, this is an audience that some are very informed, some were getting educated. What can we do to help with this issue?
Well, in New Jersey, you can help get the bill passed to end child marriage in New Jersey. I'm testifying before the Assembly Judiciary Committee on Monday. Any of you who could be in the State House on Monday at 10 o'clock, that would be great, but I assume most of you probably can't do that. So you can go to our website, unshamed.last.org, to first of all get information about the bill, but there's also a petition that you can sign to show your support for ending child marriage in the United States, and you can contact your local legislators and let them know that you support A3091, which is the bill to end child marriage in New Jersey.
Thank you. From my level, the global level or the international level, you know, I always kind of say whether it's forced early marriage, childhood marriage, women's issues, any issues, peace and security issues, human rights issues, a lot of time when I meet people, they normally complain about the UN. The UN hasn't done enough for Syria, the UN failed in Rwanda, they failed in Sri Lanka, they're not doing enough for early child marriage, they're not doing enough. And my response normally is, the UN is really a table, right? If you go to the UN and if you visit the UN, it's a bunch of meeting rooms. And what is decided at that table is done by countries who are sitting there. And so if you're not happy with what the UN is doing, if you don't think the UN is doing enough, you think the UN needs to do more, then you have to lobby your governments who sit at the table to take actions that you want them to take. So it's similar to what she said as far as with the State House and lobbying your governments to, in the state legislature to pass the bill. Same at the global level. It's the same thing. You have to talk to your representative to whatever your issue is. Typically we're talking about this issue for today, but whatever issue is, to talk to them and say, you know what, I would like some movement on this at the international community level. It's the same thing.
And some of that pressure would happen through non-governmental organizations working there too, would it? Or
yes, NGOs, non-governmental organizations. I think NGOs play an important role. I will say this, I've been at the UN now for about 6 or 7 years. I think the NGOs play, non-governmental organizations play an important role in, one, information, two, information, education, and putting the political pressure on, right? Which I think is a good thing. I think also sometimes we have to be careful with NGOs because they don't understand an intergovernmental process, and they don't understand the time it takes for governments to move to make the changes that they want to see. So a lot of times I've had a lot of conversations with people who are part of NGOs who say, why don't you just do it? Just do it. Like, I don't understand. It's the right thing to do. You guys agree, just do it. You know, and I think that part is having NGOs understand the intergovernmental process and understand why things take the time that they do is important. But I think it's an important role for them. I think they play a critical and vital informational, educational side to it. But like I said, I think it's sometimes good to help them understand the member state side, who we each have our own parliaments, we each have our own special interests, we each have our own lobbies, we each have our own internal domestic issues as well, and not just ones that are brought before the UN.
thank you.
As a representative of an NGO, I will try to stay patient.
I think it's important that you oh, sorry. Like I said, I think it's important. I think you guys play a critical role, but I think it's like, I mean, some of the best conversations I've had with NGOs when I've sat down and I just explained to them the intergovernmental process. And I say, well, here's how it works. There's a report that comes from the Secretary General. It has to be negotiated amongst 193 countries. Each country then has to go back to their capital to get instructions, and there's changes, and you know. And so when I've explained that kind of process to them, they've said, oh, okay. So it's like, yeah, I'm not like against you, or I'm not thinking that you don't have a good cause, or I think that it should be, but just understand the constraints that we're working on, and don't kind of so quickly say that we're, you know, stopping this process when it's just our own internal things. That's all.
Do we have any time for questions from the audience, Pamela? Yes.
I just want to make one comment. Also, if anybody.
Oh, yeah, I can.
I actually can make 2 comments.
I'm with Zonta International. I also represent Zonta at the United Nations, and we are an NGO. And there's quite a few of us who walk the halls of the UN almost every single day or every week. And yes, there are many who do not understand the inner workings of the United Nations nor the process, but from the amount of contact that I have had with representatives of NGO from all over the world, that many of them do. I had a very interesting meeting yesterday morning with the representatives from the International Labor Organization related to their new protocols against child labor, child exploitation, forced labor, etc. And everybody sitting around that table knew exactly what they were talking about on both sides. So we've had very good conversations. The only other suggestion I would have for others who are interested in learning more about the UN as it relates to women's issues is to go on to UN Women website. It's an excellent resource for all that the United Nations is doing related to everything that you can imagine related to women, including the CSW, because they are the secretariat of it. But thank you.
Any more questions?
Hello, panel. How are you? As an educator and professional individual in performing arts, it's just mind-boggling while we're doing all these political battles in those political arenas, and we have to do, need to, should do. We as a people in the community, women particularly, need to be informed how to do this as a grassroots opportunity, because that's our children out there. You know, that's our grandchildren for some people, that's our daughters from others. And that, it's mind-boggling, 3,500. When I think about early American history, because one of my topics I teach about how young girls were able to marry as children. And I think we forget that about American history, that it was not, it kind of passed over. Once we got into the 20th century, it's no longer brought to the table of topic of conversation. So therefore, it's just died out. And I teach it as a past. And when you tell me it still is a present, that's painstaking to know that our children are being forced by adults who are desperate, greedy, ignorant, and totally need to be, it's intolerable. And I think beyond just waiting till it gets to the political arena for that particular battlefield, if you will, we in the community need to create our own opportunities to make this awareness come very definitively and significantly in our schools, churches, synagogues, temples, wherever it is, and beginning at home. And there needs to be an education brought to women and men in those homes, parents, that I'm sorry for your struggles, I'm sorry for your missed opportunities, but your children are not to be pawns on a chessboard. Ever. Ever.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is mostly for you, I guess. How do women who get out of those marriages relate to their religion afterwards? We know that, I mean, it's sort of an abusive and archaic, practice, but how do you relate to your religion? Do you transmit it to your children, or?
Well, there's a lot of variety there. Some women move away from religion completely or start practicing a different form of their religion. Some women continue to identify as strongly religious even after their families have shunned them and they've lost so much, largely because of their religion. So it's, it just really, religion is such a personal decision, and of course we support women no matter what their decisions are. I personally have moved away from religion completely, but I think I'm in the minority. I think a lot of women still practice some form of the religion with which they were raised, even after the trauma of a forced marriage.
I can hear you. If you want to.
Yeah. Do you mind?
Yeah.
So I am in a charter school and I teach math to middle schoolers, mostly 6th and 7th graders, and I'm wondering how I can bring that into my lesson plan, or how I can educate my children without being offensive to their parents or to whatever policies are in the state that I'm working in that doesn't go against what I should be teaching them. Like, how can I make them aware without overstepping my boundaries?
That's a really good question. I can tell you that we are in the process of developing Unchained Club, which is for high school and college students. It allows students to open a chapter at their school to raise awareness about forced marriage, to educate their peers and staffers at the school, teachers and staffers about forced marriage, because what we have found is often a young girl will ask for help from a teacher or a guidance counselor, and the teacher goes, "What? I never heard of this, I don't know what to do." So to show them how to respond in that situation. Bilal, you had something?
I think that, like you said, is a great question. What I would do is, because this is an issue that touches, as you said, all religions, all cultures, all over the world. And I think there's a couple of questions, and maybe the educator might know some of these answers. I'm not an expert by any means on this topic particularly. But a couple of questions that I would be interested to find answers to is, why was it for so many hundreds of years women were married off at such a young age? Was it because of life expectancy of humans at that time before modern medicine was very short? Was it for cultural reasons? Was it for political reasons? You know, I think answering a lot of these questions, because it's very common in cultures all over the world, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Asia, you know, and so it's too common. You know, even, I mean, my grandmother, who was from South Carolina, was married at 15 to my grandfather's 28, you know, and so now, was it forced? Was it political? Was she really in love with him? I mean, I don't know a lot of these kind of complexities, but this is just 2 generations ago, you know, in my case personally. So I think answering those kind of questions can help you educate to going forward. It's like, okay, you know what, we have modern medicine now, people living a lot longer, you know, I think those kind of questions, if we can answer them, then we can better help explain to the classes how to do it.
Well, we actually know why parents, we have 3 main reasons that we've seen that parents typically will arrange marriages for their children. Of course, arranged marriage or forced marriage, well, often those are indistinguishable from each other. But one of the main reasons is cultural or religious. So it's just, this is always the way it's been done in our family. Often the parents themselves were in an arranged marriage or child marriage, and they're just continuing the cycle of this. And then often it's to control a child's behavior or sexuality. So a child is just too wild, or is dating somebody from the wrong community, or is dating at all for parents who don't want their child to date. Or comes out as LGBTQ, and the parents say, oh, hold up, we're gonna marry you off before this gets too far. And then sometimes there's an economic benefit. Sometimes there's money that changes hands, and sometimes it's immigration even. So a girl will be married off to a man overseas because then he can get his US visa. So if that helps with the conversation at all. But one of the things that we do through Unchained Club is talk about how to talk about a sensitive issue like this without making anybody feel marginalized and without judging another culture. And so what we're hoping is starting a conversation will help people, even within the communities that regularly practice this, to think again about issues related to marriage and girls particularly, since this is very much a girls' issue, and marriage and the role that women and girls play in society.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask for a round of applause for Mr. Bilal Wilson and Ms. Grady Reeves. Thank you so much. And don't forget to drop off your completed evaluations. Thank you.
Hold on, folks.
Oh, and hold on 1 minute for an announcement. The roses are compliments of Zanta, I believe, and...
Is the person here who won the NJPEC ticket to see Bill Sharrock? No? Okay, thank you.